roads become very slippery? A. When it has been raining for an hour or more. B. The day after it rains. C. For the first 10 to 15 minutes of a rainstorm. D. Right after the rain has stopped. C. For the first 10 to 15 minutes of a rainstorm. Pavement can become very slippery within the first 10 to 15 minutes of a rainstorm because the rain causes oil in the asphalt to rise to the surface of the road. This problem becomes even worse in hot weather. The heat combined with the water causes more oil to rise to the road surface. You may cross double solid yellow lines. A. To pass a slow-moving truck. B. To turn into a driveway. C. To pass another car. D. Under no conditions. B. To turn into a driveway. Double solid lines indicate that you may not pass or change lanes. You cannot cross the lines unless it is to turn left to enter or exit a highway, to turn into or from a driveway, or to make a U-turn where permitted. This sign means A. Keep right. B. Low shoulder. C. No parking at any time. D. Lane ends. A. Keep right. Regulation signs regulate traffic speed and movement, displaying rules which drivers must obey. This regulation sign indicates that drivers should keep right to avoid an upcoming potential driving hazard. What does a single dashed yellow line separating traffic mean? A. Drivers may pass if it is safe to do so. B. Both lanes travel in the same direction. C. Drivers may not pass. D. Drivers may pass, even if it could be dangerous. A. Drivers may pass if it is safe to do so. Yellow lines separate traffic moving in opposite directions. A single dashed yellow line in the center of a road indicates that vehicles traveling in both directions are permitted to pass. Drivers may only begin a pass if they will not interfere with any oncoming traffic.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
When entering a street from a driveway, you A. Must drive slowly to allow approaching vehicles and pedestrians time to get out of your way. B. Must honk your horn so approaching vehicles and pedestrians know to give you room. C. Must stop and proceed only when there are no pedestrians or vehicles approaching. D. Can disregard any pedestrians if there is no sidewalk. C. Must stop and proceed only when there are no pedestrians or vehicles approaching. Always stop before entering the roadway from a driveway and yield to any approaching vehicles or crossing pedestrians. The stop should be made before crossing the sidewalk area. Failure to stop is unlawful. Is it legal cross a double solid yellow centerline to pass? A. Yes. B. No. C. If there is no oncoming traffic. D. If the vehicle ahead of you is driving under the speed limit. B. No. Two solid yellow lines down the center of a two-way road mean that neither lane of traffic may cross the lines, unless they are turning off of the roadway. A driver can cross double yellow lines when turning into or out of a driveway or entrance to a business. No passing is allowed over a solid yellow line. Look over your shoulder to check your blind spot when A. Pulling toward or away from a curb. B. Turning left or right. C. Changing lanes. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Look over your shoulder to check your blind spot every time you want to change your vehicle's position. If you are turning, changing lanes, or pulling toward or away from a curb, you should check your blind spots. This sign means A. Slippery when wet. B. Watch for drunk drivers. C. Dangerous curve ahead. D. Bump in the road ahead. You should be cautious when passing a bicycle because A. You are moving faster than the bicycle. B. The bicycle always has the right of way. C. Oncoming traffic may not see you pull out to pass the bicycle. D. The cyclist may have to swerve into traffic to avoid an object on the road. D. The cyclist may have to swerve into traffic to avoid an object on the road. You should always be cautious when passing a bicycle because the cyclist may have to swerve into traffic to avoid an object on the road. Always be particularly careful when driving near bicyclists. To turn left from multilane, one-way streets and highways, you should start from A. The middle of the intersection. B. The right lane. C. The left lane. D. Any lane. C. The left lane. To turn left from multi-lane streets and highways, start from the left lane. Before passing another vehicle, you should signal A. Just before changing lanes. B. At any time. C. After changing lanes. D. Early enough for others to know your plans. D. Early enough for others to know your plans. Before passing, you should signal early enough for other drivers to know your plans in advance. You are driving in the left lane and want to move into the right lane. You should A. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over your left shoulder for other vehicles before changing lanes. B. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over your right shoulder for other vehicles before changing lanes. C. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over both shoulders for other vehicles before changing lanes. D. Check your mirrors, signal, and change lanes. This sign means A. Watch for bicycles. B. Bicycles not allowed. C. Bicycle repair shop ahead. D. Bicycles have the right of way. A. Watch for bicycles. This sign provides advance warning that bicycles may be present. This road sign means A. Sharp turn to the right. B. Double curve. C. Winding road. D. Pavement ends. C. Winding road. This sign indicates that the road ahead winds with a series of turns or curves. You are driving on a divided multi-lane highway and see or hear the signal of an approaching emergency vehicle. You should A. Disregard the signal if there are other lanes available for the emergency vehicle. B. Stop as quickly as you can. C. Slow down, move your vehicle to provide a clear path for the emergency vehicle, and stop. D. Increase your speed to get out of the way of the emergency vehicle. C. Slow down, move your vehicle to provide a clear path for the emergency vehicle, and stop. If you hear the siren or see the flashing lights of an emergency vehicle, you must slow down, provide a clear path for the vehicle, and stop. Don't try to outdrive the emergency vehicle. This sign means A. Slippery when wet. B. Tow-away zone. C. Steep downgrade. D. Roadwork ahead. A. Slippery when wet. Warning signs prepare drivers for upcoming road conditions and hazards and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign tells drivers to be cautious when driving under conditions that may cause the roadway to become wet and slippery. This sign means A. Trucks are permitted on an upcoming narrow bridge. B. The bridge ahead is open to one-way traffic only. C. The bridge ahead is wide enough for only one car at a time. D. The bridge ahead may be too narrow to meet or pass a truck. D. The bridge ahead may be too narrow to meet or pass a truck. Warning signs are used to warn drivers about upcoming hazardous conditions and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign warns drivers that an upcoming bridge may be too narrow to meet or pass a truck and that they should be careful. You notice that the driver in the vehicle ahead of you is driving with one hand and talking to a passenger. You should A. Give the vehicle extra space. B. Know that the driver in the vehicle ahead is reducing their safety margin by being an inattentive driver. C. Avoid following the driver's example. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Do not become distracted by looking at passengers, attempting to find something in your vehicle, looking at reading material, sightseeing, or daydreaming while driving. If a driver near you seems distracted, allow them extra space because the risk of an accident is increased by their inattentiveness. Before switching on the ignition, you should A. Be sure only backseat passengers have buckled their seat belts. B. Be sure only adult passengers have buckled their seat belts. C. Be sure only child passengers have buckled their seat belts. D. Be sure all of the vehicle's occupants have buckled their seat belts. D. Be sure all of the vehicle's occupants have buckled their seat belts. Develop a routine for entering and leaving your car. Before switching on the ignition, buckle your safety belt and see that all passengers do likewise. You are driving on the roadway and hear a siren behind you. You should A. Stop where you are. B. Pull over to the right and stop. C. Speed up to get out of the way. D. Slow down. B. Pull over to the right and stop. When you hear the siren or see the flashing lights of an emergency vehicle coming from behind your vehicle, you must create a clear path for the emergency vehicle and stop. Reduce your speed and safely pull over to the side of the road. If the emergency vehicle is directly behind your vehicle when you are in heavy traffic, keep moving slowly until you can get out of its way. If another car is in danger of hitting you, you should A. Sound your horn. B. Wave your arms. C. Use your emergency lights. D. Flash your headlights. A. Sound your horn. Your horn should be used to warn other drivers or pedestrians in situations where they may not see you. For example, if you think another driver is about to hit you, you should sound your horn. When sharing the road with a truck, it is important to remember that trucks generally A. Require longer distances to stop than smaller vehicles do. B. Require less time to pass on a downgrade than smaller vehicles do. C. Require a smaller turning radius than smaller vehicles do. D. Require less time to pass on an incline than smaller vehicles do. A. Require longer distances to stop than smaller vehicles do. Because of their size, trucks need longer distances to stop than smaller vehicles do. Unless otherwise posted, the maximum speed limit on a dirt or gravel road is A. 20 miles per hour. B. 40 miles per hour. C. 55 miles per hour. D. 70 miles per hour. C. 55 miles per hour. Maximum speed limits indicate the fastest speed a driver may legally drive under ideal conditions. When driving on a dirt or gravel road, the maximum speed limit is 55 miles per hour. If a different speed limit is posted, follow the posted limit. If you are driving so slowly that traffic is backing up behind you, you should A. Decrease your speed. B. Pull off the right side of the road and let traffic pass. C. Not let the other cars pass your vehicle. D. Use your four-way flashers. B. Pull off the right side of the road and let traffic pass. Driving more slowly than the flow of traffic can be hazardous. If you are on a two-lane, two-way road and driving so slowly that traffic is backing up behind you, you are required to pull off the road and let the other vehicles pass. Only drive significantly under the speed limit when conditions require it. If worried, nervous, angry, or crying, a driver A. will drive no differently than they would if they were thinking more clearly. B. can drive faster because they are more in touch with their senses. C. should take the time to focus on driving before starting the engine. D. should call a friend to vent while driving. C. should take the time to focus on driving before starting the engine. You may not be able to drive well if you are worried, excited, crying, angry, or depressed. Emotions can distract you from your driving because your mind is focused on something else. Take time to calm down and get focused before driving.